Wild Wednesday each week for your chance to win tickets to see your Minnesota Wild in an upcoming game. Wild Wednesdays are presented by Jim Beam, a crowd pleaser since 1795.
My wife was rattling the pots and pans yesterday again, Tenebys, for lunch. She tried a new recipe, ham and cheese sliders on those Hawaiian buns. And it was, then there was some type of drizzle she puts on the top where it was some kind of a honey Dijon mustard thing with some sort of oats and beans and barley on the top. It's literally the greatest sandwich I've ever had in my life. They're the little sliders, so I think about this. I had 5 of them for lunch, and I wish I would have only had 4 so I could have 3 for lunch today, but I'm going to have 2. And then she bought this fresh broccoli Waldorf salad from Kowalski's. And now I know why Rosen practically lives there, because it's really, really good. He practically lives at Kowalski's, just ask him. So I will be having lunch while we await the arrival of the head coach of the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings. That would be Kevin O'Connell, a new and improved Kevin O'Connell, who has admitted that he now is, instead of trying to, he checks his ego. I check mine at the trunk of the car while golfing. Where would he check his? Tend to be inside the coach's office, the film room, whatever the case may be. He decides, I don't need to show off to everybody. I don't need to prove to everybody, wow, what a marvelous play caller, how creative and inventive. Because that just gets you in trouble. It happened to him even, was it 2 games ago where we tried that double reverse thing at like the 10-yard line and lost like 8 yards? It's like, dude, relax. Just use the bread and butter stuff. You got some pretty good players. Vikings running game wasn't too solid yesterday either, was it, Teneby? I thought I jotted down the numbers. A. Jones had his trouble. Akers ran quite a bit, but nobody really ran particularly well. But, that's okay. That defense for the Titans is it's as advertised. It's pretty good. Their offense it leaves a lot to be desired, though they did have the gash plays against us, those explosive plays, which again leaves you scratching your head a little bit. You hope, I love what coaches say after a win. Now we got to clean some things up. That's one of the catchphrases that you'll find in the National Football League now, and they certainly have things to clean up. But as I said, Teneby, I think my slogan for the Vikings is just survive until we get to postseason 2025. That's all we need to do is just survive, win some more games. Our schedule is Bears this week. Our last road game of a 3-game road trip will be at the Windy City. How about that? We talked last week, Teneby, about how often do you see a blocked field goal at a football game to end the game? Because it happened against the Chiefs.
Yes.
The Chiefs blocked a field goal to go to 8-0 and then, or 9-0, and they lost last night to Buffalo in a highly entertaining game. I watched most of that game, start to finish. But the Bears looked like they were gonna win it, because that wasn't even that long of a field goal, right? It wasn't. I wouldn't call it a chip shot, but it was 45-ish. Is that how far it was?
Yeah, the one yesterday was 45.
Yeah, so 45-yard field goal, and he kicked it a little low. Packers block it on the road at the Windy City, and it looked like the Packers were going to lose another game in the standings, but they do not. So Kitty's 9-1, Vikings 8-2, the Packers 7-3.
Yes,
is that their record? In the Bears, I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm not saying that teams give up when all looks lost for making postseason play, but I think maybe human nature to not have the edge sometimes you might have, and now they fall to what? They 4-7?
I think they're 4 and something.
4 and something. I think 4-7.
They're 4 and 6.
4 and 6. So they're not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. You talked about, the Vikings are clear. How many of the Rams? I mean, the Bears are still in it. They're not done.
Yeah, Rams, Seahawks, 49ers are all 5-5. So the Vikings have a 3-game lead on all 3 of those teams.
And so the Bears at 4 and 6, if they're behind 3, 5, and 5 clubs, that means they're right there.
Big difference, though, when you look at block kick for field goal and the Hail Mary one a couple weeks ago. Chicago beat 6-4 and right in the playoff.
That's exactly
right.
Playoff
team.
That is exactly right. So I'm sure we'll get their best effort. I think we came through relatively unscathed, did we not? We'll find out. I guess the coach will address that. I don't remember any Viking player leaving the field, right? Or did I miss anything? I think we came out pretty healthy in the game.
I think so, yeah.
So that would be good news as well. Am I the only one?
Are we not doing 5 questions?
Oh.
That's okay.
Or do you want to?
No, that's okay.
Well, maybe we should, because I need this other material I have in my brain, because I got a lot of things I want to talk about Buffalo, Kansas City. So maybe we should do 5, 3, 4. Yeah, why not? Thanks.
Let's do a truncated version.
Yeah.
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Question number 1.
It's now time to take an in-depth look at the welfare of the Wolves.
The Wolves led Phoenix for less than 15 seconds yesterday, but they left as winners after Julius Randle called game.
Joe gets it into Julius Randle. He'll take 2 dribbles. He'll shove off on Okogie. He'll fire at the buzzer and hit it. They're going to count the bucket. Okogie went down trying to draw the foul. Julius Randle, welcome to the Wolves. Welcome to the Wolves. He wins it at the buzzer.
Yeah, Randle's three-pointer at the buzzer gave the Wolves a 120-117 win over the Suns. Randle scored 35 points. He made 5 three-pointers. Common after yesterday's heroics, will we see a new Julius Randle moving forward?
It's always a possibility. I've been accused by listeners of, isn't that funny? When the Wolves lose, you lead with it. You never stop. You ride the Wolves about their inability to start the game, to play immediately once the game, be ready to play when the game starts. And then when they win, you never bring them up, which we haven't done until now. And I was hoping you wouldn't so that I could ignore them again. No, I'm only kidding. I don't know if we'll see, again, I have a theory about the NBA. It's a working theory. I think it's spot on. I know the basketball community will disagree. Randle could play the next game and score 5 points. Just the way the NBA is. And whether it's because the other team shuts him down or he's having a bad shooting night, or sometimes I think guys just go, it's back to back, so I'm kind of tuckered today. So I would hope so. I mean, we do know he can play. He came to the team in the trade for Bodega Cat with, I think, 3 All-Star game appearances or 2 All-NBA teams or something. I mean, he's highly regarded. He's a good player. So I would hope we would see more of that. He's been quiet sometimes, almost invisible in other games. But that was a game where they had to, now again, full disclosure, all they had was Devin Booker and Tyus Jones. Durantula was out, and so was Beal. They were out. So again, that's not the Wolves' fault. I'm just saying they weren't at full strength. But they did find a way to win. And then the Friday night game, that was an OT game against, who did they play in that game? San Antonio, right? Wasn't the San Antonio game on Friday?
I think so.
And again, against San Antonio, well, we'll save that again. I do want to talk a little bit of Wolves. That was an overtime win. Ant was really good. Ant and Randle, especially in overtime. Ant and Randle took over, scored 12 of the Wolves' 15 points. And so we'll get back to the Wolves a little bit later.
Question number 2.
Time now for an in-depth look at the state of hockey.
Stars had our number, huh?
Yeah, the Wild lost the Dallas Stars for a 7th consecutive time Saturday night at the X, falling 2-1. It was just the Wild's 3rd regulation loss of the season. Common, why can't the Wild beat the Dallas Stars?
I guess the simple answer would be, and you know me, I'm not paying as close attention to the Wild as I once did, though I vowed to pay more closer attention to them because I'm on the bandwagon. I'm assuming Dallas is a better team, or Dallas is a better team, or they're even, or whatever, but it's puck luck. I don't know. Maybe you can answer the question.
They have been a better team. It's hard to say this year whether they're the better team or not, just because the Wild did play them without Jules Eriksson, without Jonas Brodin, without Matt Zuccarello. So you're talking 2 of your top 4 forwards, 1 of your best 3, maybe 4 defensemen. So it's hard to really get, the Wild were they're depending on 2 guys right now. And Dallas is a good enough team where they can contain those 2 guys when you don't have anything else to work with. Dallas outplayed the Wild pretty good for the first 2 periods. Wild came on in the third, ran into a hot goalie, Ottinger, who's from Lakeville, Minnesota. He was brilliant. Gustafsson, though, was brilliant for the Wild. I mean, Gustafsson was the sole reason they were in that game to begin with. But it's hard to fully get a gauge on this year just because the Wild were playing them without their full lineup and without some major pieces. But yes, over the last couple of years, Dallas, I think one of the things they do well is they get to the net. They've got the bodies. They can get rebounds, tips, deflections. And the Wild historically, defensively, because they're a little bit on the smaller side, have struggled against those types of teams.
I mean, reminded Tenby that it was SAC, not San Antonio. I apologize. Well,
That's right.
They both start with an S-A.
Yes.
Super America Man, great gas, good goods, and savings for you. Yeah, so again, you're missing players. The stars are good. It's no big deal.
I say we try going to break early here.
Let's go to break. We'll come back when we do. Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Vikings. Day after the game news conference here on the Fan. We join the KOC news conference in progress.
Back up to that full-time role.
Yeah, I think, he's made some critical plays, either, thinking back to the Jacksonville game when there were some real premier looks for him with how they were defending Jordan and Justin. And then yesterday had some ops, a couple chain moving catches, and I think he's just continuing to kind of, make up for some time lost of actual game action, and he's getting better and better. And we're very fortunate to have him back in there. And that's saying something just with how remarkable Josh Oliver actually has been. I mean, I know that everybody's made, note of some of the passing game plays, but just how he plays, how he protects, his physicality in the run game, you really can't speak to just him playing that wide position to the level that he has. So, I think that tight end room, and then you've got Johnny Munt and some guys between Nick Muse working his way back, and then obviously Robert Tonyan as a veteran, and Sammy Reyes as well as our international player. I mean, we're loaded at the tight end position, and Coach Angelico does a great job with those guys.
You mentioned TJ working his way back. Does he seem like he's at the point where that could increase, or do you still want to keep him at that same?
Yeah, I think, when you look at it and you have a player like Josh playing at that level, it really allows TJ to have the maximum impact on the game with how we want to play, running the football a little bit more than maybe we have during TJ's time here. But I think there's really at this point to answer it, there's no set number. It's kind of how the game goes, and TJ can do anything that we ask him to do.
How did you feel about the running game yesterday?
Yeah, it was good front. I mean, number one, defense yardage-wise in football for a reason. That front has a lot to do with it. I was reminded of that just post-game, talking to Jeffrey Simmons and Sweat. Just you realize how massive those guys are. And Simmons is one of the best in all of football. He really is, and it showed up yesterday. We had our work cut out for us going into that game. There's always some things you can do better from a technique, fundamentals, play style standpoint, and just the small little things that can turn a 3, 4, 5 yard run into a 15, 20 yard run. And we were close on some of those, but I do think we've got to continue. That's one of the big areas as we, move towards the home stretch here of the season, is continuing to get that. When we've been at our best as an offense is when we've been able to establish the run and all the things that come off of it. And it's easier said than done sometimes, but something that I think we've got to continue to improve at.
Kevin, you guys had the posture change on the toss play early, and then I think the next play you get the ball back.
Yep.
Sam checks to that to go back to it. Is that just a scheme thing, or is there something to that of going back to it and kind of just getting that out of your system from a confidence perspective? Well,
a lot of the game plan kind of goes right off that previous comment I made about those 2 guys inside. What's the best way to not run at those guys to try to get the ball on the perimeter a little bit more. So it was a play where we had something else on run or pass on the first play, and the look that dictated that we get to the toss play, which I thought we were close on. We had some space in there, but this is the National Football League. We got to execute tossing the football. Whose ever fault it was, whose ever takes the ultimate minus on the sheet, it's catastrophic. We've had 2 of them early on in games, and it can't happen.
Is there anything when going back to that, though, just to tell Sam, hey, this is going to be part of our offense, and we can't kind of take a detour around it?
Tossing the football?
Yeah, I mean, just running toss plays as it's coming up the middle, just, kind of like a quarterback would be going back to a receiver, just going back to it.
Yeah, no, I do. If we're not going to be able to toss the football, we've got much bigger issues to work through in regards to, it's not I'm trying to answer the question. It's if I'm worried about that, and maybe I should be with 2 of them on the ground. But yeah, my expectation is with the amount of time you guys get to see a lot of that ball handling, you probably see 15 or 20 of those toss type things a day in ball handling because they're in every week. And like I said, 2 times early on in games, being our only turnover yesterday, I thought it was critical, especially when we were already in their opponent's territory. And then that's the turnover we have. I do believe it's unacceptable, and I got to get it fixed.
Kevin, a lot of good teams will lose a game or 2 during the season to a team that they're maybe better than on paper. Your team hasn't done that yet. Why is that? Why has your team not had that setback? Yeah, all I know it's, looking at records and that sheet of paper of the 2 teams, every week is a challenge. We've got to go play and try to find a way to win a game every single week. That's been our sole focus all year long. I think if we started to view ourselves as, we should beat this team or we shouldn't beat that team, that's the wrong way to go about it. We just got to play good football. And there's a lot of areas coming out of yesterday that I think we could play better in all 3 phases. And that's where, as we kind of reach the middle of November, pushing on into December, we've got to try to find a way to play our best football this season here down the stretch. And that might be overcoming, the aches and pains of a long season, trying to be a physical football team, how we prepare. We got to show up and be ready to go every op we get, regardless of who we're playing. And I think if you've learned anything about our league, it's just, you don't play well, any team in this league can beat you. And if you do play well, and our team is the one I know the most about, when we play well, I think we've got a chance to beat anybody we play. But a lot goes into that. And we got to make sure we're doing all the little things to make sure that we're ready to roll, and it starts with me.
I'm a little, admittedly, obsessed with kickoff stuff, but yesterday Ty had the one.
Yeah.
And were you guys looking to pop one, or is that just a short kick and he had to return it? Or
no, we went into the game. One of the things that we wanted to really highlight with our team was we thought we'd get some ops to return a few more. Based upon the data of where their kicks were coming down at, and we thought that it would be a chance to maybe get a few more in play. Actually thought we'd get maybe a couple other ops, depending on how the game went. But yeah, we wanted to try to see if we can at least flip the field. We were very close on that one to possibly, taking that the distance, and having Ty back there with how it's kind of worked out with Cam, assuming a little bit more of a role, being a good option to help keep Aaron's snap count where we want as we go down the home stretch here. Ty is a major contributor with his athletic ability, explosiveness as a kick returner, but also the personal protector on punt and just some of the other phases. So it's been a huge thing to help our team, kind of how that's all worked out.
Time for 2 more questions, guys.
Ensure that he was the returner.
Well, yeah, it was kind of how Coach Daniels thought we could maybe get the best. If they were going to give us an op, even if it was 2 or 3 yards into the end zone, we were going to try to maybe bring them out and see if we can get the best possible blocking assignments based upon how they schemed it up.
And Kevin, how did Dalton Reisner grade out for you guys?
Yeah, I think Dalton, did some good things. Like I said, it's one thing to, get back in there and be working your way back from his injury to his window being open to then getting a chance to be out there. But it was, like I said, a really good front. I thought he battled. I thought he showed some of that veteran kind of moxie to kind of win some downs that were some hard downs. And then I think there's some things he'll continue just with the speed and physicality of it, find his groove. So I was really happy with the way Dalton stepped in just kind of with the poise of the veteran that we're kind of looking for. And like I said, I was also really happy with the way Ed handled the week, and he was ready to go if need be.
Kevin, where have you seen Pat Jones improve the most as a pass rusher?
I just think he, is really detailed with how he prepares, Ben. I think big thing, I don't know whether Kwesi has said it before or, it's just an overall philosophy, but pass rushing and the tools that guys really hone in on take some time sometimes. And I think Pat's really kind of figured out what he is as a rusher, and then his high-level traits to do those things, and then what are the change-ups off of those, understanding that I am in a front with Jonathan Grenard and Van Ginkel, and maybe it's a pressure we're bringing Cash or IP, and where he studies a lot. He knows where the weakness in protection is. He knows how he's going to be blocked, and then he attacks it. And that's the one word that comes to mind when I think of Pat, whether he's setting the edge in the run game or pressuring the quarterback. It just feels like he's at his best when he's in that attack mode, and he's done a great job of that. Clearly this year he's been huge for us.
Are Pat and Van Ginkel like two of the quietest pass rushers that you've been around? Like off the field? That's the first time I would ever be categorizing pass rushers in that light, but I'll tell you what, Pat he'll get incredibly chatty if you talk to him about fishing. I know that. So that's normally how I break the ice, and I'm not a very accomplished fisherman, so I probably don't bring a lot to the table from that conversation standpoint, but they really are. They're just all about their business, incredibly smart, instinctive players. Just the way even Flo was able to use Gink yesterday and provide some different looks. He ended up unblocked on quite a few runs, and he's making plays, TFLs, and then just the understanding of just how it's great post-snap. And Gink's clearly, with his interception against the Jets or the Giants, he's shown kind of an unbelievable pre-snap IQ. But then the post-snap, hey, I'm getting high in this rush. I'm going to level off right about the time that the quarterback's stepping up and gets another sack. I don't think it's a coincidence those guys have had career years. I think Pet and Amarje and Flo have put those guys in great situations, and they're capitalizing on it because they're really good football players. So I think it's it's a highlight for our team. It's really become a strength of our team, and a big reason why we're winning some of these games that are going down to the wire.
You mentioned a few times that Grenard is having one of the better offenses.
Yep.
So obviously we see the sacks and we see the flash plays, but what are some of the things that maybe aren't quite as obvious to the naked eye that he does that have helped you there?
Yeah, I think, just his ability to, at this point in the year, the tape is his resume, and people are really respecting. You're seeing the slide go his way a lot. You're seeing some opportunities for the other guys based upon where he is in the rush pattern. I think some of the early down stuff for a guy that really had not truly played like the outside linebacker position, edge setting position a lot in his career. He's been physical. He's been able to shed and get off blocks. He's set a great edge, and he's just been snap in and snap out, one of our most consistent players all season long. And I just can't say enough about what he's been able to do beyond the stat sheet, but also, those impactful kind of closer mentality type plays that he has had have been huge.
Looking at it now, do you think there's one coaching point or motivational point that you made to Sam last week that really clicked with him?
Yeah, it just, honestly, he said it to me in the game a couple times when, first and foremost, just I do want to say I thought he played a fantastic football game. I thought he played really well. Then I watched the tape and he confirmed a lot, and then some of his kind of, above the line play that maybe covered up some other things around the play of our all 11 mentality was remarkable, and a huge driving force behind winning the game, like I said. But we tried to go back to, let's just take a look at some of the things you've done really well. And when we did that, a lot of the things centered around his feet, his eyes, his ability to use his athleticism when warranted. And we knew that would probably come up in the game with the type of interior and edge pressure that we thought we would get. And he was really, really detailed in that. He was really decisive with his reads, and I thought that made him accurate with some big time throws, some longer than others, but also just the rhythm and timing. I mean, he got back to Justin as the third or fourth progression on a play in the high red. He got, the catch that we challenged and they overturned by BP was the fourth progression. He got back to, even on the keeper game, being able to use his athleticism and throw a low cross to Josh, a down flat to Josh. Those are all just high level quarterback play by him. And I think he's, it was a really good foundational kind of growth week, because I think we went back to, a lot of those, really highlighting a lot of those things throughout the week and kind of putting it on Sam to get to that standard every single snap of doing his job. And then he played great. So, hopefully it's something consistently that we see moving forward, because when he plays like that, regardless of how things are going in the other phases of our offense, we're going to make enough plays to give our team a chance to win the game.
Last one. Just with Brian O'Neill, at least by the PFF standards, hasn't given up a pressure in a couple of weeks here, is one of the best in the league. Is there something that this year you've seen from him growth-wise, and what's the value of having him anchoring the line?
Especially, Matt, in a year where we've lost CD, and I think sometimes Cam stepped in and has, really served admirably from a standpoint of just being in a brand new offense and playing. But I think if Brian wasn't playing to the level that he consistently has every game all season long, maybe we'd be in a little bit more of a, crisis management mode. But it just doesn't feel like that, because Brian's been so dang good, so consistent, and everything he's been on the field, he's been times 10 from a leadership standpoint. I mean, he has really assumed, you guys hear me a lot in those post games. When I'm done speaking, 75 is going to break it down, because I really feel like he's assumed that role. I've let him talk to the team a few times. He's been fantastic, and I'm glad PFF sees it that way. The film, to me, shows it, the way he practices every single day, and hopefully our fan base and everybody is seeing it the same way, because he deserves a lot of credit for the year he's had. I think he's playing some of, if not his best football, for sure the best football that I've been around, and that's saying something, because he's been really good for the entire time I've been here.
And there you have it. That concludes the day after the game news conference from the head coach of the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell. As we go to break, Tennessee is going to entertain us with some Wild Today. What you got, Tenna?
Yeah, this is Wild Today, brought to you by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild. The Wild lost to the Dallas Stars 2-1 Saturday night at the X.
Steele's got a step left side. Steele to his backhand and a rebound score. Mason Marchment second. And it's 2-0 Dallas.
Yeah, you heard the call on the fans Saturday night. Mason Marchment scored both goals for Dallas. They also got 22 saves from Jake Ottinger, who was only beaten once off a Kirill Kaprizov deflection. Philip Gustafson for the Wild. He was good again. He made his season-high 38 saves. But the Wild do lose their third regulation loss of the season. They did get some good news today, however. Both Joel Eriksson-Ek and Jonas Brodin practiced today. Wild played three games on the road this week, beginning tomorrow night in St. Louis. That was Wild Today, brought to you by Jim Beam, a crowd pleaser since 1795.
Joe Bonamassa.
Don't miss out on the Power Trip Morning Show when they take over Treasure Island on February 6th and 7th. Be there for tons of games, laughs, and great prizes, including Vegas trips to watch the big game. Book your stay using the promo code KFAN for both the 6th and the 7th to save 15%. To get the full details and book your stay today, head over to KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
I like Las Vegas, don't you, Tennessee? You like Vegas.
I like the big game.
Yeah, I'd like to go.
I like 15% off at Treasure Island.
I'd like to go to Treasure Island for the 15% off, but I wouldn't want to go to Vegas to watch the big game. That's just me. But more power to the people that want to go, including the Power Trip. More power to the Power Trip Morning Show. So that should be a good time. That's February, did you say 6th and 7th?
6th and 7th, yeah.
6th and 7th is where they actually take over Treasure Island Resort and Casino. What were we talking about before we went to the news conference?
We were doing 5 questions.
But what was the topic?
We'd gotten into Wolves and Wild, I believe, and that's
Wolves,
all.
Yeah, Wolves. Well, first I want to go to I just love these. I told you there are people out there that They love their team so much that anytime anybody like pokes fun at them or just critically, that's the word I'm looking for.
If you're critical.
If you're critical of the club, or you're just critically analyzing me,
even if you're rightfully critical. Yeah.
You're telling you discuss the team and say, I like some of the things they did this past game. Some of the others I don't like, but there was this one that came in to the KFAN text line. We call it the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. It says, Common, you realize the Vikings were a couple of first downs from defeating your unbeatable club, don't you? And then, of course, you know me, I can't resist. I go, you realize the Vikings didn't get those first downs and lost, don't you? But sure. But what happened at the end of the game?
You can say that in every football game.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. Except for Lions-Jaguars.
Jaguars weren't that far out of that game.
Oh, really?
All they needed was a touchdown, 2-point conversion, and an onside kick. Touchdown, 2-point conversion, and an onside kick. Touchdown, 2-point conversion, and an onside kick.
You still got to keep going for a while, by the way.
Well, yeah, I think quite some time. Yeah, you're right. And then that wasn't enough for him. Who else had one? And the beauty of it is, and I think you know this, Tenneby, deep down, I mean, would I like to see the Lions continue to win and make a run through? That'd be fun. But if they don't, it makes no difference. My biggest issue right now is trying to come up with tee times when I go on vacation. That's the biggest thing, is trying to find the tee time I want where it's still, you know, they have these graduated prices for tee times. And the warmer that gets during the day, the more expensive it is. And I talked to baby brother Peter last night, and I said, dude, we can save a lot of money. Plus, when you're only playing two, you don't want to get stuck between foursomes, right? Or all of a sudden they pair you with a couple of rubes, right? So I had to ask him, do you want to play? It's going to be 45, 50 degrees if we play early in the morning. If we wait till the middle of the day, it's 65, 70. He said he didn't care. It made no never mind to him, which I kind of liked. I'd rather start a little bit earlier personally. But then the text message came back and said, this time, yes, we'll wait till it counts like your NFC ship game. So he's taking the cheap shot that they didn't get to the championship, that they lost in the championship game last year. Of course, then I had to say, remind us about the Vikings' last 6 conference championship games. I mean, you can't win that. As a Viking, you can't win the game. You can't win that. You can't win the championship game cheap shots.
Like, if you're the Twins, you can't make fun of another team for not spending enough money.
Exactly.
When you're the Twins.
Exactly.
If you're the Vikings, you can't make fun of other teams unless they do it in a delicious fashion.
At least the Lions were in their game to the bitter end. Last time the Vikings were there, well, they really weren't that far out of that game against Philadelphia. All they needed was a touchdown, 2-point conversion, and an onside kick. Touchdown, 2-point conversion, and an onside kick. Touchdown, 2-point conversion, and an onside kick. And then who can ever forget that really close battle, 41 meat sauce against the Giants in 2000?
Yeah, that was good.
That was, well, they weren't that far out of that game. I'll spare you.
Well, then the two that they were close in, they just bungled them.
Yeah, they just bungled them.
They had chances to win both of those games.
That's exactly right. So, and people, I think, just find it hard to understand, to wrap their head around. It's okay to have a couple of favorite teams. I mean, I've been in Minnesota long enough and have lived and died through Vikings lore that if the Vikings were to go on and win the big game, I'd be delighted. So it's all good for me. I like the fact that they're still winning. It makes the division better. I told you, I wish the Bears would have won 2 of those games, and they were right in the mix as well. It's fun. Speaking of that, and we'll get back to that. I do want to talk about the Wolves, because I'm going to actually be complimentary of the Wolves here eventually. Well, maybe we'll just do it now, as long as we have the time to do it. We can get back to football a little bit later. They win an OT against the Kings on Friday night. And then they win a regulation run with a buzzer beater by Julius Randle. Both games, what's a little, and again, guys are going to go off, right? But De'Aaron Fox went off for 60 points against the Wolves. Don't you put a hand in the guy's face? I'll never forget a coach at a. I'm gonna brag about baby brother Peter here a little bit. We're playing an AAU game. I don't remember against whom. It was at Burnsville High School. Pete hits like 3 or 4 3-pointers in a row. And it's a quiet gym because it's just family members watching, and all of a sudden the coach on the other team goes, "Would somebody please put a hand in number 2's face?" Next possession, their kid got right in Pete's face, and Pete hit a deep one from the corner. And as the kid was running back down the other way, he looked at the coach and put his arms up like, "Well, I did. What do you want me to do?" But that's what you got to do. I didn't see the game. Maybe somebody that did can tell me. But Fox was apparently unstoppable. He
for hitting 60.
Yeah. Sabonis had 24, but the Wolves have balanced scoring. Again, both games they won. Friday night, Ant goes off for 36. Here's what's nice to him. He was 6 for 14 from 3-point range, which it's just under 50%, right? So that's a mighty fine percentage. The game before against the Blazers, he was 0 for 9. So he turned that thing around. Randle had 26. Nas Reed had 16. Conley and McDaniel both had 14. Gobert had 11, along with 11 boards. And had 10 points as well. So they have balanced scoring. I think, and again, every basketball game takes on a different complexion. But I do believe the more options you have to score, it makes it more difficult on the other team. It's rather simple. And I think that's part of the reason why the Wolves were able to beat the Kings. Of course, the Kings with just 2 major scores were right in it as well. So I guess there are different ways to skin a bodega cat. If you could have 2 guys go off, or you can have, I'd prefer the balanced scoring. And then Ant and Randle basically took over in OT. They scored 12 with the Wolves, 15 points, and then Ant hit the winner with 14-3 left. Then Tennessee, they played they played yesterday in afternoon, a rare matinee game during the National Football League. I wonder what the attendance was for that game, for yesterday's game, because it was one that played at 2:30 at the Bullseye, and with the Vikings playing all the other NFL games, I think I read where it's rare for the NBA to schedule games during the day.
Doesn't seem like the best idea.
No, I wouldn't think so. But again, the Timberwolves, when you look at, again, these are just player stats. Booker goes off for 44. The next closest is Tyus with 13. Meanwhile, the Timberwolves, again, it's balanced scoring, Tennessee. Edwards with 20, Randle with 35, Edwards with 24, DiVincenzo with 15, Nas had 13, McDaniels and Gobert have 11 apiece, and Nas got 8. I just like to see balanced scoring. Nice to win a couple of games. Again,
now Phoenix, they were without Durantula.
That's correct.
And without Beal.
That is correct. And that's probably why Booker had to score as often as he did, scoring 44. But a couple of wins, nice to see. So there you go. For the people that think all I do is pick on the Wolves, the expectations for the club to me is higher. They admitted themselves. I mean, I don't make these quotes up. They're uttered by the players. Where at the beginning of the season they were going, they basically were saying maybe we're resting on our laurels. Hey, we went to the conference championship last year. We're really good. The other teams aren't all of us. That's what they are. Not paraphrasing, but that's what I think it was Ant. He's the go-to guy for a quote, of course, because he's one of the best players in the league, and he's certainly the star of the Timberwolves, right? He's their best player overall, and he's talking about how it's just like and when I see those quotes, I think, well, don't you know better than that? I know you're young. Not everybody in that team's young. You would think they would all know by now that you just can't live on your press clippings. The other teams aren't going to go, it's the Timberwolves, the big bad Wolves. They beat Denver last year. They got to the conference finals. We don't have a chance against them. We'll just let them have their way with us. It doesn't work that way. And sometimes it feels like the Wolves sort of feel that. So it's like, I'm sorry, we're the tough love covenant. We're critical of the we hold the teams in this town to the high standards we hold ourselves to here on the Grum.
Huh?
So I'm watching last night's game. Bills. I can't remember if I probably already asked you this. How much of Bills Kansas City did you see the late afternoon game?
I watched a little at the beginning and then missed a good chunk of it, and then I watched towards the end.
Did you?
I saw the Josh Allen run at the end that sealed it.
That was a terrific play.
Yeah.
Terrific play. He's hard to bring down once he gets going. And that was just one of those, he was bound and determined to get into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
That was that second half. That was a terrific play. Nance was so excited. He was slobbering over it. That's the play of the year. Then he goes, I know we had the Hail Mary the week before, but with the situation and what's at stake, it's the play of the year.
Oh, come on.
That's what he said. He said that was the play of the year. And you could make that argument, I guess. It is what the thing is that they hype that game up so much, and rightfully so. It's probably been the two best AFC teams over the past 5, 6, 7 years, right?
Yeah.
You can throw the Ravens into
Baltimore
the mix,
in there, yeah.
But it's really been Kansas City and then Cincinnati.
They've had some playoff matchups, yeah.
Cincinnati went to a big game a few years ago against the Rams and lost when Stafford won it. But we talked about this last week. Buffalo had beat Kansas City in the regular season the last 3 times they met. But the last 3 times they met in the playoffs, the Chiefs have won. I'm not making this up. I heard Nance say it when he talked about the matchup at the beginning of the game before opening kickoff. He said, well, we've just been blessed to have this game 4 years in a row. He actually said blessed. It's a football game. Calm down, Jim. But for Jim, I guess that's his life. But he said we are blessed to have this game again on CBS. And then,
well, maybe personally he is blessed because there's a lot more viewers watching that game, and it's good for his salary.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure he's doing okay, but
yeah, I don't think the amount of viewership has anything to do with the salary. I don't think in that case he's just their number one guy. We've talked about that before. I don't think a play-by-play guy makes that much of a difference. I don't think people go, Nance, I'll watch that terrible game. He's always doing the best game, so. Whatever the game of the week is, they're generally giving that to Nance and Tony Romo. Somebody got mad at me, too, on Twitter last night when I sent out a tweet, and, of course, I had to bring up Romo trying for to get his tour card, right? Where was my tweet? I can't help myself. Well, I guess I could. I said, and Romo suggesting the Chief could still win the game. By the way, did you see that? They're down 2 scores. It's 11 points.
There's 9.
9 points.
Yeah.
2-score game. I think the Chiefs got 1 timeout left. And there's a minute 4. And Romo suggesting this ain't. He goes, well, he was doing it sarcastic. He goes, well, this game's over, isn't it? There's no chance that this team can come back and win. Basically saying, it's Pat Mahomes. Anything can happen. Give it up. Come on, Tony. It ain't going to happen. Buffalo is a good enough team where they're not going to go down the field, score a tutty, get an onside kick, which is literally impossible now in this day and age in the National Football League. Could it happen? I guess. What's the percentage? 1.2%, but Tony's doing the idolizing and pedestalizing. So I said, Romo suggesting the Chiefs could still win the game is about as preposterous as the possibility of Romo securing a PGA Tour card. Then somebody tweeted back at me and just said, what did they say? It was so good. It was, would you give it a rest? Who cares if Tony Romo wants to play in the PGA Tour, even if he isn't good enough? Why does it bother you so much? It doesn't bother me. I find it humorous.
Why does it bother that person that you are tweeting about?
Why does it bother him that I'm talking about? Why does that bother you so much? It's a running joke. And then my last tweet, because this was my favorite. Did you see the post-game interview with Tracy Wolfson, sideline reporter, did with Josh Allen? Did you see it?
No.
I tweeted, Tracy Wolfson tried so hard to get Allen to confirm the hype around the KC Buffalo game that CBS tried to sell us, but he didn't bite. He went, just another Week 11 game. Because she said, now I know that during the week you said it was just another week 11 game, but was it really just another? He goes, yeah. Because everybody, see, they look at it. When you're in the media, especially if you're producing a football game, it's a production, right? You're putting it together, you're hyping it, you're trying to get people to watch it, blah, blah, blah. You view it differently. You're trying to say it's Kansas City versus Buffalo. They've had these great matches before. Here we are again. It means so much. Josh Allen knows as well as anybody, Tennessee. Regular season's great. We beat Kansas City 3 times. But when it really counted, in postseason, the Chiefs are 3-0 against the Bills. And that's what Allen was trying to tell her, and I don't know how she can't understand that, but she's trying to get him to go, yeah, it really is a big deal, man. I mean, this is the two great. She's trying to get him to try to put more importance on that game, and there is home field advantage you're trying to get and such. But throw all the, it does, if those two teams could very well meet for the AFC Championship game, it could very well happen. There's a couple of other teams that might have something to say about it. I get that. Ravens, the Steelers, I'm just stunned. And I congratulate a Steelers guy in his club's victory. I gave him a text. And there's maybe an outside chance. Who else is over in the AFC? Chargers seem to be better than you and I have ever given them credit for. Tend to be they're winning some football games. I don't think they're going to get to the championship game, but they're in the mix. But whether it's played at KC or Buffalo, if it comes down to that, yeah, does the home field advantage make some difference? But not everything. So Allen knows, and everybody in that locker room knows, it's great to win the race. The Week 11 game, it's nice to win, but it's the playoffs that matter, and I think that's what
it reminds me, going back to when the Vikings lost to the Falcons in the '98 NFC Championship game, and then they played each other like early the next season, like week 2 or something.
Yeah.
And people, they tried to, I think the Vikings won that one, and they tried to play off as if they were exacting revenge.
Yes.
It's like, nope, that win is not going to make up for the loss we had last year in the NFC Championship.
It's just not. It's just absolutely not. And so that's why, but I guess that's the media's job, trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. It was an entertaining game, especially the second half had a lot of really good defense. And then Allen with the brilliant play. It was quite the run. We'll pause, come back, another hour to go. It's the Common Man program along with Tennessee, or Tennessee as we like to call him, right here on the Fan.